2 years ago, Alex Eala walked away from a tennis court at Flushing Meadows with a loss that could have broken her. This time, she walked away with something very different. A 6-4, 6-2 victory over Elena-Gabriela Ruse. But the score was only half the story. Because Ruse was not just another opponent in Cincinnati. She was the player who, 2 years earlier, had stood between Eala and her first Grand Slam main draw. And after the rematch was over, Ruse said something that made the victory feel even bigger. She called Eala one of the new stars of the WTA. Think about that for a second. The same player who once ended Eala's dream was now standing across the net from a world number 20 and admitting that the Filipina had become someone the entire tour needed to watch. That is what makes this story so powerful. It is not simply revenge. It is a 2-year transformation, compressed into one afternoon on Court 3 at the Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio. Back in 2024, Eala was still trying to find her place. She was ranked number 153 in the world. Ruse was number 122. The setting was the US Open qualifying tournament, and the prize was enormous for a teenager still trying to break through. One more victory would have taken Eala into her first Grand Slam main draw. Instead, Ruse won. Eala fought, but the opportunity slipped away. For most players, a defeat like that becomes an old result buried somewhere in a record book. For Eala, it became unfinished business. And now, 2 years later, she had another chance. Only this time, almost everything had changed. She was no longer the teenager hoping for a breakthrough. She arrived in Cincinnati as the world number 20, a WTA 500 champion, a proven threat against elite opposition, and the number 17 seed at one of the biggest events of the summer. That ranking alone tells you how dramatically the story has changed. But rankings do not explain what happened next. The first round bye gave Eala a little extra time to recover after her demanding Toronto run. She had already carried herself deep into the Canadian Open, and just weeks earlier she had produced the breakthrough of her career at the Mubadala DC Open. She became the first Filipina to win a WTA Tour singles title. She did not do it by taking an easy path. She beat Olympic gold medalist Qin Wenjing, defending champion Leylah Fernandez, world number 10 Elena-Gabriela Ruse, 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka, and world number 3 Jessica Pegula during that extraordinary run. So when she walked onto the court against Ruse, there was a completely different feeling around her. Confidence, yes, but also expectation. And expectation can be dangerous. One great tournament can make people believe anything is possible. The real test is what happens when the next tournament begins and everyone expects you to do it again. Eala did not look overwhelmed. She looked ready. From the opening exchanges, she took control of the tempo. She attacked the ball early, moved Ruse around, and refused to give the Romanian enough time to settle into her patterns. There was no frantic tennis. No desperate searching for answers. Just pressure. Point after point. Game after game. And suddenly, the opponent who had once ended Eala's Grand Slam dream was the one struggling to stay in the match. The first set went 6-4. Then Eala tightened the grip. The second set became a statement. 6-2. Match over. 2 years of distance between the defeats. One afternoon to rewrite the memory. But here is where the story gets more interesting. Because Eala's victory over Ruse was not an isolated revenge moment. It was the latest chapter in a pattern that has been quietly building around her. Over her recent rise, Eala has repeatedly faced players who had beaten her before, and repeatedly found a way to turn those old losses into new victories. Names such as Renata Zarazua, Maya Joint, Iga Swiatek, Qin Wenjing, Leylah Fernandez, Jessica Pegula, and Alicia Parks had already become part of that story. Now Ruse joined them. That changes the meaning of the phrase revenge tour. It is not about anger. It is not about settling scores for the sake of settling scores. It is about growth. The player who lost 2 years ago is not the player standing on the court today. And Eala has said as much herself. Earlier this year, when reflecting on her development, she talked about the differences in her game, her physical strength, and most importantly, her maturity. That last word may explain more about her rise than any ranking number, because tennis at this level is rarely decided by talent alone. It is decided by what happens when momentum disappears. When the opponent hits 3 winners in a row. When the crowd gets loud. When a match becomes uncomfortable. When the plan you brought onto the court stops working. The old Eala might have needed time to find an answer. The new Eala appears to find one faster. That maturity was visible against Ruse. She did not chase the moment. She controlled it. And then came the part nobody could have scripted. Ruse walked away from the match with a loss, but her post-match comments carried a surprising amount of respect. According to Romanian media reports, the 28-year-old acknowledged Eala as one of the new stars of the WTA circuit. That statement matters because Ruse knows what high-level tennis looks like. She has reached a career-high ranking of number 51 and has defeated top players, including Barbara Krejcikova. She knows the difference between a player having one good day and a player who is becoming a genuine force. And after losing 6-4, 6-2, she recognized something. Eala is changing. The opponent who once looked like the gatekeeper is now watching the player she once stopped move through that gate without her. That is the emotional heart of this entire story. 2 years ago, Ruse represented the wall. In Cincinnati, Eala became the force breaking through it. And the tennis world has started noticing. Andy Roddick recently highlighted one of the most intriguing parts of Eala's game, her ability to use a slower serve not as a weakness, but as the beginning of an attack. That distinction is important. A serve does not always have to be the fastest shot on the court. If the serve disrupts the returner, creates the right ball, and gives Eala the chance to strike the next shot with authority, it becomes a weapon. Roddick pointed out that Eala can punish the next ball and drive it in either direction with serious pace. That is not accidental. It is part of a developing identity. Then came another strong endorsement. Greg Rusedski, the former world number 4 and 1997 US Open finalist, had already identified Eala as a player to watch in Cincinnati. His prediction was even more ambitious. Could she break into the top 10 by the end of the US Open? His answer was essentially yes. No hesitation. And when the subject of Eala's difficult draw came up, Rusedski did not sound worried. Amanda Anisimova, Linda Noskova, potentially more elite opponents after that. His argument was simple. Look at the players Eala had already beaten in Washington. Look at the level of competition she had survived. Look at what she had done in Toronto while running on fatigue and emotion. She kept competing. She kept fighting. And that is becoming the defining trait of Alex Eala. She does not need the perfect conditions. She needs a chance. Give her an opponent. Give her a court. Give her a reason to believe the match is still alive. And she keeps coming. That mentality is why the Ruse rematch was so revealing. If Eala had beaten her in a 3-hour battle after saving match points, the story would have been dramatic. Instead, Eala won 6-4, 6-2. Controlled, efficient, convincing. That is what makes the victory feel less like revenge and more like evidence. Evidence that the player from 2024 is gone. Evidence that Washington was not a fluke. Evidence that Toronto was not simply a hot streak. Evidence that the ranking is catching up with the player Eala is becoming. There is another reason this victory deserves attention. It would be easy to reduce the entire afternoon to a simple revenge headline. Player loses 2 years ago, player wins the rematch, story over. But that would miss what Cincinnati actually revealed. Eala is beginning to win in different ways. In Washington, she survived a brutal succession of elite opponents and found the belief to lift her first WTA Tour trophy. In Toronto, she kept competing even as the physical and emotional demands mounted. In Cincinnati, against Ruse, she did something different. She made the match feel under control. That is a subtle change, but it is the kind of change coaches notice. Champions are not always the players producing the most spectacular points. Sometimes they are the players who make a dangerous opponent look ordinary. That is what Eala did. And that creates new problems for everyone watching her. The next opponents are facing a player who now expects to belong. And that expectation can change everything when the biggest points arrive. In Cincinnati, under pressure. When pressure rises. And now the next challenge becomes even more dangerous. With the victory, Eala moved into the round of 32 at the Cincinnati Open, the $7.4 million WTA 1000 event. The win carried a prize of $47,375 and kept her alive in a draw packed with dangerous opponents. Potentially waiting in the next round is world number 10 Amanda Anisimova. That is not just another match. It is another measuring stick. Eala has already built an impressive record against top 10 opposition, with 9 wins against players ranked inside the top 10 and 7 of those victories coming in 2026. A win over Anisimova would become another major statement. It would also push Eala one step closer to something that sounded almost impossible not long ago: a place inside the world's top 10. But Cincinnati is not offering her an easy road. Linda Noskova has already beaten Eala twice in 2026, including a brutal 6-2, 6-0 result at Indian Wells. If the draw lines up that way again, Eala would face another old problem. Another opponent with a recent victory over her. And that is where this revenge narrative becomes fascinating. Because Eala is not simply defeating opponents. She is changing how she responds to the players who have already figured her out. That is the real test of a rising star. Anyone can surprise an opponent once. The elite learn how to come back after being studied. They adjust. They improve. They remember. And Eala has spent the last 2 years doing exactly that. Look at where she started. A teenager ranked outside the top 150. A heartbreaking US Open qualifying defeat. A player still waiting for her first Grand Slam main draw breakthrough. Now look at the other side. World number 20, WTA 500 champion, number 17 seed in Cincinnati. Victories over some of the biggest names in the sport. A growing international fan base. And opponents who are beginning to talk about her before they even step onto the court. That is how a prospect becomes a contender. It happens slowly, then suddenly. For Eala, this suddenly began in Washington. But the real test is whether she can sustain it. That is why Cincinnati matters so much. The trophy is important. The ranking points matter. The prize money matters. But momentum may matter most. The US Open is coming. Flushing Meadows is the place where this chapter began 2 years ago. And now Eala is heading toward New York as a completely different player. The memories are still there. But so is the evidence that she has changed. She has already learned how to turn disappointment into motivation. Now she has to learn how to turn expectation into performance. That is harder. Everyone knows her name now. Opponents have watched her matches. Coaches have studied her patterns. Crowds expect her to win. The surprise factor is disappearing. That is the price of becoming a star. And Eala seems to understand it. After her Toronto run, she talked about counting her blessings and taking the lessons from those weeks into Cincinnati and New York. That is not the language of someone satisfied with one breakthrough. It is the language of someone who believes the breakthrough is only the beginning. And that may be the most dangerous part for the rest of the draw. Because if Eala can keep improving while the pressure rises, her ceiling gets higher. The Ruse match showed the past can be rewritten. The Anisimova challenge will show whether the present can be conquered. And the US Open will ask the biggest question of all. How far can Alex Eala actually go? 2 years ago, she was one match away from a Grand Slam main draw. Ruse stopped her. Today, Eala is one of the names being discussed as a future top 10 player. Ruse could not stop her this time. That is not just a scoreline. That is a timeline. A reminder of how quickly a career can change when a player refuses to let one painful defeat define her. The most powerful part of revenge is not making the other person remember what they did. It is reaching a point where you no longer need them to. Eala did not need to say anything dramatic after this match. She let the tennis speak. 6-4. 6-2. And then her former conqueror spoke for her. One of the new stars of the WTA. That is a sentence Eala could not have heard in 2024. Now it sounds like a warning. Because Cincinnati is not finished. The revenge over Ruse is complete. The next chapter is waiting. A top 10 opponent could be next. Another old rival could follow. And somewhere beyond Cincinnati, under the lights at Flushing Meadows, is the tournament where this entire story started. 2 years ago, Alex Eala left that place with a dream delayed. In 2026, she is returning with something much more dangerous than a dream. Proof. Proof that she can beat champions. Proof that she can survive pressure. Proof that she can defeat players who once defeated her. And proof that when the stage gets bigger, she does not disappear. She gets louder. So the question is no longer whether Alex Eala belongs. That question has already been answered. The question now is how far she can take this. Because the girl who walked away from that US Open qualifier 2 years ago was searching for an opportunity. The woman standing in Cincinnati today is searching for the next level. And if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it is this. Do not judge Alex Eala by the player she was when you beat her. Judge her by the player she becomes when she gets another chance. Ruse got that chance to see the difference firsthand. And the difference was 6-4, 6-2. The revenge is complete. But the rise is nowhere near finished. The Eala Express is moving again. And this time, everyone is watching the track ahead.